Hey there, recently on this group, someone was saying, boy, I got a lot of waste when I make my sourdough starter or discard, and how can I not have so much waste? And one of the ways to do that is to make smaller batches. When you make a smaller batch, the thing you really need is a scale that measures in 1/10 of a gram. This scale does that. I bought this a while ago. It's still available online. I don't know. You don't have to buy this scale, but the key is that you have 1 decimal point after your grams. So 0.0 grams, and as you start adding weights, the last decimal place works. Some scales don't have that. So when you're making a small batch, more exact measurements are important, but there's some tricks where you don't have to do too much work to do that. So the way I do this is I usually start by taking my new jar and I put it on the scale, and I also put my spatula inside, and then I zero out the weight. So now the 0 point on this is the jar plus the spatula. This makes it easier when you're doing small batches. So I take my starter that I'm going to start from. This is a little bit past peak, but still looks pretty good. So I'm going to take some. I don't worry about being too exact. I shoot for anywhere from 3 to 5 grams. And because I zeroed with the spatula in there, I know that this 2.0 grams, that's the weight of the starter itself. I want a little bit more. So I'm going to scrape a little bit more from inside here. Again, I'm not worried about being too exact. So 4.1, I got 4.0. If I had 4.1, 3.9, I'm not going to care about that. So I find it harder to measure an exact amount of water than flour. So I start with my water, and I can be a little bit careless about it. I'm going to go for 5 to 1. 5 times 4 is 20. It's all about the ratios. So I'm going to add the same weight of water and flour. I'm going to zero again, and I know I'm going for 20. If I get a little more, a little less, I don't really care. Water's a little bit harder for me to measure. And again, I leave the spatula in there. This is just easier. So shooting for 20, I got 22.3. I'm going to remember that number because that's how much flour I'm going to add. But at this point, I usually stir the starter with the water, try to mix that up and get it mixed. I move the spatula to get the sides of the spatula as much as I can. Not a huge deal. All right, that's close enough. So now I check it again, 22.4, and I'm going to zero again. Now I'm going to do my flour, and I'm going to shoot for 22.4. So I know I can do a couple big scoops off the bat. 17, got to do a little smaller now. 20, start dialing it in. 22.2, need a little bit more. 22.3, close enough. If you get within 0.1, 0.2 grams, you're golden. All right, now I'm going to stir this up. And I spend a little bit of extra time when I do this. I want to make sure all of that flour is hydrated, everything's incorporated, and it helps to have a flat-sided spatula. And I didn't mention these jars. They're from a place called Foolproof Baking. They used to sell direct. I think now they sell on Amazon. These hold about 9 ounces, and the nice thing is that they have straight sides, so it's easy to scrape the sides. And they're small. They do have some ratios on here. I don't really worry about that too much, but if you want to be exact, you know, if you want to 1 to 1, 1 to 5, even 1 to 10, 2 grams of starter, 20 grams flour, 20 grams of water. So you can get that. So I'm always scraping the sides a little bit, trying to get all the dry flour off the sides. And then eventually, I don't know if you can see this, I start kind of doing this chopping motion, and I think that really helps incorporate all of the dry into the wet. So hopefully, if you've wondered about how to do small batch starters because you're just maintaining, you're not baking for a week or so, and I don't bake, I bake every other week maybe, but I do like to maintain my starter. And then as far as cleanup goes, you can, and I do this, some people have problems touching things, but I wipe off the sides of the spatula, incorporate that, because usually there's some dry stuff left on the spatula. And then as far as cleanup of the old jar, I wipe a little bit more off. And then I usually do this right over the trash can. Someone was asking, can we dump this down the sink? We can, but I like to dump as little as possible down the sink. So I scrape out my old, here's where that flat side really comes in handy. And again, I usually just do this over the trash can if I'm discarding it. If you have a discard jar, you would do it over that. Just scrape out as much as you can. And with the right tools, flat-sided jar, straight edge spatula, you do pretty good. The rest of it I just rinse with really hot water to get everything diluted as it goes down the drain. So hopefully you found this interesting. Again, the key is the scale. That's 0.1 gram accurate. Smaller batches, you have to be a little bit more accurate than a big batch. There's not as much room for error, but there's a little bit. So enjoy your baking.